Hey everyone, this is Justin. I just wanted to give some quick impressions on Avid's new interface they announced today. It's called Pro Tools Carbon by Avid, and I have a few thoughts that I just want to share. Right off the bat, the price of this device is $4,000. I understand they're trying to compete with UAD's latest Thunderbolt 3 devices. The high-end 8-channel device that UAD has is not quite 4,000, but it's up there. For what you get, it's not the same, and it's way too much money for a lot of folks that would buy this. I don't understand things like only 8 meters on the front of the device. They're nice looking meters, but give us 16 meters, give us 32 meters. A lot of us want to see if phantom power is on and what the levels are on our devices, and we don't want to look on a computer screen to find that information out. We want to see it on our interface. We want to make sure that we're not having any digital clipping. Meters. 4 headphone jacks on the front. I guess the idea here is that 4 of your drummer, your bass player, your vocalist, whoever your guitar players are standing around, getting 4. There's only 4 of them, and they're only getting headphones from the front of the device. It just never is a good way for me how it works. I really am not a big fan of having inputs on the front of a device, except maybe it's for a talkback mic or something like that. It's not something that is especially useful to me. I can see how it could be useful to some other folks. A much better way to do headphones, and something that I'd love to see them build in the future, is have some satellites where units where performers can turn up and down different channels of music, background music, their own voice or their own guitar or their own drums, or different channels that the engineer designates. It's never really works out. How could an engineer mix your headphone mix for you and have you be happy with it? I guess some talent might say, hey, we want to turn this up, turn that up, but a lot of them are probably shy and won't do that, and so they end up getting a mix, and you have no real idea if they're satisfied, because you're not in their head, right? They should be able to turn themselves up and down independently. It's much better. This device has no SPDIF in, it has no AES EBU in. That's not such a big deal, but really, honestly, throw a couple of SPDIF I/O on the back of this thing, like just about every other device of its kind has. Throw in the ability to plug in at least one AES EBU device, like something like a Line 6 Helix. Not a huge deal, but would have been nice to have. Here's a big one. So now we get into the way this gets in and out of a computer, the computers that are supported by it, and the low latency DSP. Now, we all love the idea that you can track with plugins, low latency, love it, want it, need it. Everybody's asking for it all the time. We have our big sessions, we have lots of plugins. All of a sudden, your talent needs to come and track, and there's not enough power in the computer. It slows things down. You have to freeze tracks, or you have to turn off plugins in order to track, and that's just a lot of extra work, and nobody wants to do it, or people don't like to do it. Years ago, we all, myself included, wanted to utilize the power of computers to run plugins natively, native plugin processing with low latency. And that has, strangely, on the PC side of things, the hardware's gotten better, but nobody wants to use a PC for audio. It's just a cultural thing. We like using our Macs for audio. And Macs are in a huge transitional phase right now with Apple Silicon. They're getting away from Intel chips. So we're going to have to wait a while to find out if the latest Mac's Silicon works out and can be utilized for native processing of plugins. So other options that would be like UAD has their architecture for plugins, and AAX DSP, which is old technology that was introduced with the HDX card. And I guess it's kind of an interesting idea that they would have a satellite interface that you can have AAX DSP. The problem is that when this technology was first introduced, the HDX card, plug-in makers like Waves abandoned it. They didn't want to spend the money on developing AAX DSP plugins, and just a whole bunch of others. Slate Digital hasn't done it, won't do it. They're not going to do it going forward unless there's something I don't know about. And so for Avid to come out and say, well, there's 300 plugins that are AAX DSP, it seems like a lot of plugins. It's really not that many. And for people to go out and buy special versions of these plugins is just a pain in the neck, very expensive. You know, having to figure out what AAX plugins, DSP plugins are even supported. I do like that they're going towards low latency. Let's talk about the Ethernet. I do like Ethernet as a, you know, I use SoundGrid myself from Waves. It's a similar type of technology. There's Dante. There's this open source AVB. You know, they had to pick a protocol for getting audio in and out of the computer. It's interesting that they didn't go with Thunderbolt like everybody else. I think that's a downer for some folks. But what I don't get is, great, if you're going to go with Ethernet, that should make it so that you can use other older computers with this hardware. And the only computers you can currently at launch use this with are Macs that support Catalina. I don't understand why at launch this can't support Mojave. I don't understand at launch why there's no Windows support for it, even though I'm not a Windows person. It just seems unreal that wouldn't be supported right out of the gate. That's hugely important to many folks. It's interesting that they have this new software perpetual parachute plan. I love that they use that word parachute here. So for many of us, we pay for our Pro Tools licenses every year. It ranges from as low as $99 for an educator license for what's called Pro Tools, I guess vanilla, and up to $399 a year for Pro Tools Ultimate, which is sort of a more studio version of it for HDX and HD native. I have an HD native system. It's basically a card that works with my older interfaces on my older Mac. We don't really like paying a yearly fee unless we're getting something for our money, most of us. To Avid's credit, I do like that in their latest software versions they included routing folders. I think that's a fantastic feature. It's one I definitely use. Kudos to Avid for that. But there are so many other features that are in other softwares that they need to concentrate on, that users have been asking for a long time, and Avid doesn't seem to care. Like ARA Melodyne integration. Melodyne is used to do things like tune vocals, and it would be really nice if that was more tightly integrated with Pro Tools. Even little simple things that exist in other softwares that are just conveniences. It's not make or break, but they, for me, like the ability to input or play FLAC files or AAC files. I don't understand almost every single other DAW can do that kind of thing, but Pro Tools. There are lots of tiny little time-saving things. I would love to see some sort of plug-in management in Pro Tools where you can, if you have 800 or 900 plugins installed, you've got virtual instruments, compressors, EQs, you've got all these choices every time you mix that you can make. Why not put some sort of metadata around those choices so that you can, when you go and you're going to select a compressor, you can make notes on your plugins and say, oh, maybe this plugin is great for my master bus. Maybe this plugin is great on a kick drum or something like that. That would be really cool, and that would be really something that could be implemented and very useful to people who record. Avid, give me a call and I'll give you all my ideas or listen. There used to be something called idea scale, and I don't even know if that exists anymore. The community needs to be listened to, and I don't think that it really is. Maybe the community of the super pros that work in huge studios, but what about the guys that are sort of starting out or more in the middle? end of things that like to record. That's who this product clearly is for. Yeah. So those are my quick thoughts. Oh, I would also throw in dark mode on Pro Tools 2020.11. It's cool, but you know, probably a lot of Pro Tools users will turn it off right away. I think it should have probably stayed off at launch, not been on, but you know, it's eye candy that some people will like, others will just not like it at all. I'm one of those that doesn't really like it. But you know, maybe I'll learn to like it. I guess that's it. Thanks for listening and have a great day.